A little girl suddenly shouted to the millionaire, "Don't eat that." And what happened next shocked the entire restaurant, leaving everyone speechless. Before we begin this journey together, know that without your subscription, we might become digital strangers passing in the night. Don't let that happen. Follow us now, leave a comment, and share with others who need this content. This could be our only meeting if you don't act now. Without further ado, let's proceed to the story. If you're done admiring yourself in the reflection of your phone, I'd like to order. Ethan Stone didn't bother looking up as he addressed the waitress. The sharp edges of his tailored Tom Ford suit matched his equally cutting tone. At 33, the CEO of Stone Enterprises had mastered the art of commanding a room without wasting eye contact on those he deemed beneath his pay grade. "Of course, sir. What can I get for you?" The voice that answered held none of the expected intimidation, just a calm professionalism that finally made him glance up. He hadn't expected those eyes. Deep amber with flecks of gold that somehow managed to look both warm and guarded simultaneously. The waitress, Maya, according to her name tag, stood with a straight back and measured gaze that seemed oddly incongruent with her position at Chicago's upscale but not quite five-star restaurant, the Emerson. Filet mignon, rare, truffle mac on the side, Macallan 25, neat. He returned to his phone, dismissing her without another word. Maya nodded and turned away, her dark hair falling in a simple braid down her back. As she walked toward the kitchen, Ethan found himself watching her retreating form. Something about her composure nagged at him. Waitresses weren't supposed to carry themselves like that, like they were doing you a favor by taking your order. His dinner companion, Lawrence Prescott, a potential investor in Stone's newest tech venture, arrived 15 minutes late with excessive apologies and a smarmy smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Traffic was murder, absolutely murder," Lawrence said, settling his considerable bulk into the chair across from Ethan. "Hope I haven't kept you waiting too long." "Time is money, Lawrence, and I've spent 15 minutes of mine waiting for you." Ethan didn't soften the blow with a smile. In the 3 years since he'd inherited his father's struggling company and transformed it into a tech empire, he'd learned that pleasantries were just roadblocks to efficiency. Maya returned with Ethan's whiskey, and Lawrence ordered a gin and tonic along with his meal. The conversation turned to business, specifically the facial recognition security software Stone Enterprises was developing that had Prescott Investment Group salivating. "The government contracts alone will be worth billions," Lawrence said, leaning forward conspiratorially. "But I need to know your security is tight. Any leaks to competitors would be problematic." "My team's loyalty is ironclad," Ethan replied coolly. Unlike Blackwater Tech's recent fiasco, Lawrence's expression flickered slightly at the mention of their chief competitor. "Yes, well, industrial espionage is the name of the game these days. Speaking of which," he paused as Maya approached with their meals. She set down Ethan's steak first, then placed Lawrence's salmon in front of him. There was something mechanical about her movements now, as though she were operating on autopilot. Ethan noticed her hands trembled slightly. As she turned to leave, a small figure darted out from behind a decorative partition near their table. A little girl with the same amber eyes as Maya, but with an unruly mop of dark curls, rushed straight to their table. "Don't eat that," the child exclaimed. Her finger pointed directly at Ethan's plate. The man with the red tie put something in it when it was on the counter. The restaurant seemed to freeze. Maya's face drained of color as she spun around. "Lily, what are you? You're supposed to be doing homework in the break room." "But Mommy, I saw him." The little girl, Lily, insisted, her voice dropping to a loud whisper that half the restaurant could still hear. "The man with the fancy watch and red tie. He sprinkled stuff on the meat when Chef wasn't looking." Ethan's eyes narrowed as he glanced between his plate and Lawrence, who wore a blood-red silk tie and a Rolex that caught the light as his hand tightened around his water glass. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Stone," Maya said, her professional demeanor cracking as she moved to pull her daughter away. "She has an active imagination, and sometimes—" "Your daughter is accusing my dinner companion of attempting to poison me," Ethan said evenly, his gaze never leaving Lawrence's increasingly uncomfortable face. "That's quite an imagination indeed." The restaurant manager appeared, a nervous-looking man with thinning hair and a perpetually worried expression. Is there a problem here? No problem, Lawrence interjected quickly. Just a child's silly fantasy. Please, remove them so we can continue our meal. Actually, Ethan said, raising one finger, I'd like to hear more about what the young lady saw. He turned to Lily, his voice softer than it had been all evening. What did this powder look like? Lily, partially hidden behind her mother now but still peeking out, replied, It was white like sugar but not as sparkly. He had it in a tiny paper and poured it all over your meat when it was sitting on the kitchen counter. Lawrence's laugh was too loud, too forced. This is absurd. You can't possibly be taking this seriously. Ethan ignored him, instead addressing the manager. I'd like this plate taken to be tested, and I'd like to see your security footage of the kitchen for the last 30 minutes. We don't have cameras in the kitchen, sir, only at the entrances and... Then call the police. Ethan cut him off. I'll pay for testing of the food myself. Lawrence stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. I don't have to sit here and be accused by a child. I'm leaving. Sit down, Lawrence. Ethan's voice was quiet but carried an unmistakable threat. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. The older man's face flushed dark red. This is outrageous. I'm a respected businessman who's been trying to get access to my company's security protocols for weeks, Ethan finished for him. Who also happens to be on Blackwater Tech's board of advisors, a detail you failed to mention. Maya stood frozen, one arm around her daughter, looking as though she wanted nothing more than to disappear. I should take Lily back to the break room. Please stay, Ethan said, and though it was phrased as a request, it carried the weight of a command. Both of you. What followed was a blur of activity. The restaurant security detained Lawrence despite his blustering protests. The police arrived and the food was taken for testing. Statements were given, and the restaurant gradually emptied of other patrons, whispers and curious glances following in their wake. Through it all, Maya kept Lily close, her face a mask of professional neutrality, undermined by the worry in her eyes. Not just worry, fear. Ethan found himself studying her when she wasn't looking. There was something about her that didn't add up. Something in the careful way she spoke to the police, giving only necessary information, nothing more. When the initial chaos had subsided and they were waiting for preliminary test results, Ethan approached where Maya sat with Lily in a corner booth, the little girl now coloring on a kid's menu with crayons provided by a sympathetic server. Mind if I join you? He asked, not waiting for an answer before sliding into the booth opposite them. Maya's spine straightened. Mr. Stone, I want to apologize for the disruption to your evening. I don't normally bring Lily to work, but my babysitter canceled last minute, and my manager allowed her to stay in the break room just for today. Your daughter may have saved my life, Ethan replied bluntly. So I think we can dispense with the apologies. He turned his attention to the little girl, who was studying him with curious eyes that seemed far too perceptive for her 7 years. Hello, Lily. I'm Ethan. Thank you for your warning about my dinner. Lily tilted her head. You're welcome. Mommy says we should always help people even when it's scary. That's good advice, Ethan said, a genuine smile softening his features for the first time that evening. Your mom sounds very wise. She's the smartest person in the whole world, Lily stated with absolute conviction. She knows everything. Even all the big words in my books that nobody else can read. Maya shifted uncomfortably. Lily, I'm sure Mr. Stone isn't interested in... Actually, I'm very interested. Ethan cut her off, his blue eyes suddenly sharp with curiosity. Maya? I don't believe I caught your last name. Chen, she supplied reluctantly. Maya Chen. Ms. Chen, he continued. Most waitresses don't carry themselves like you do. Most 7-year-olds don't use phrases like active imagination in casual conversation, as your daughter did earlier. And most people don't look at police officers with the wariness I saw in your eyes, despite being the ones who helped prevent a crime. Maya's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around her daughter's shoulders. I'm just a waitress, Mr. Stone, and children repeat what they hear. Before Ethan could press further, a police officer approached their table. Mr. Stone? The initial test showed traces of what appears to be ricin on your food. It's being sent to the lab for confirmation, but we're treating this as an attempted murder. Mr. Prescott is being taken into custody. A commotion at the front of the restaurant drew their attention. Lawrence was being led out in handcuffs, his face contorted with rage. As he passed near their table, his eyes locked on Maya with a flash of recognition that was quickly replaced by calculated blankness. "You," he muttered, so quietly that only their table could hear. "Impossible." Maya's face remained impassive, but Ethan didn't miss the slight tremble in her hands as she busied herself gathering Lily's crayons. "I've never met that man before tonight," she said evenly. The officer nodded and continued escorting Lawrence out, but Ethan's gaze remained fixed on Maya. "He seemed to know you." "He's mistaken," she replied, standing abruptly. "It's been a long night, Mr. Stone, and I need to get Lily home." "Of course." Ethan stood as well, towering over her petite frame. "But this conversation isn't over, Miss Chen. I owe you and your daughter a debt, and I always pay what I owe." Something flashed in Maya's eyes, a spark of defiance, quickly suppressed. "No debt necessary. Anyone would have done the same." "No," Ethan said softly. "They wouldn't. And we both know it." As Maya gathered her things and prepared to leave with Lily, Ethan pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. "Call me tomorrow. I want to discuss a job opportunity for you." Maya stared at the card as though it might bite. "I already have a job, Mr. Stone. One that requires you to bring your daughter to work when childcare falls through? One that pays you far less than you're worth?" His voice held no judgment, just calm assessment. "I think we both know you're capable of more than carrying plates and taking orders from men who don't bother to look you in the eye." For a brief moment, something like amusement flickered across her face. "You mean men like you?" The unexpected retort surprised a genuine laugh out of him. "Touché, Ms. Chen." Lily looked between them with interest. "What does touché mean, Mommy?" "It means Mr. Stone acknowledges that I made a good point," Maya explained, her voice softening as she addressed her daughter. "Come on, sweetheart. Time to go home." As they walked away, Ethan found himself watching them with an unfamiliar feeling stirring in his chest. Interest. Not just professional interest, though that was certainly there. Maya Chen was clearly hiding abilities that were being wasted on food service. No, this was something more personal, more primal. A curiosity about the mysterious waitress with the regal bearing and the brilliant child who had just saved him from an excruciating death. For the first time in years, Ethan Stone found himself thinking about something other than quarterly projections and market shares, and he wasn't entirely sure how he felt about that. The apartment was small but meticulously organized, every inch of the 700 square feet optimized for functionality. Maya moved through the morning routine with practiced efficiency, lunches packed, breakfast served, Lily's hair braided into neat pigtails for school. "Will we see the rich man again?" Lily asked, spooning Cheerios into her mouth between words. Maya paused in the middle of pouring her coffee. "No, sweetheart, what happened last night was unusual. Mr. Stone will go back to his life and we'll go back to ours." "But he gave you his card," Lily persisted, "and he said he wants to give you a job, a better job than the restaurant." "Eat your breakfast, please." Maya deflected, checking the time on the microwave clock. "The bus comes in 15 minutes. In truth, she hadn't slept well, her mind replaying the moment Lawrence Prescott's eyes had widened in recognition. It was impossible that he'd actually recognized her. She'd been so careful, changing her appearance, taking her mother's maiden name, moving across the country. 7 years of meticulous precautions couldn't be undone by a chance encounter. And yet, she pulled out the business card from her wallet where she'd reluctantly placed it last night. Simple, elegant, with just a name, title, and contact information. Ethan Stone, CEO, Stone Enterprises. Her fingers traced the embossed lettering. Once upon a time, she would have met him as an equal, card for card, title for title. Once, she would have... "Mommy, you're doing the sad thinking again," Lily said, interrupting her thoughts. Her daughter's perceptiveness both unnerved and warmed her. Maya forced a smile. "Just tired, baby. Let's get your teeth brushed." After seeing Lily onto the school bus, Maya returned to the apartment and pulled out her laptop. It was her day off from the restaurant, and she had planned to use it for her online paralegal course, another step in the long, slow climb back to some semblance of her former life. Instead, she found herself typing Ethan Stone into a search engine. The results were extensive, business journals praising his turnaround of his father's company after the elder Stone's death 3 years ago. Speculation about his private life, minimal it seemed. He dated occasionally, but nothing serious. A profile in Forbes highlighting his brutal efficiency and take-no-prisoners approach to acquisitions. And more recently, articles about Stone Enterprises' new security software, reportedly revolutionary in its facial recognition capabilities and already attracting interest from government agencies and private security firms alike. Maya's blood ran cold. Facial recognition. Of all the CEOs in all the restaurants in Chicago, Lily had to save this one. She closed the laptop abruptly and paced the small living room. Taking a job with Stone would be madness. Being anywhere near facial recognition technology development would be asking for trouble. Her carefully constructed anonymity would be at risk. And yet she couldn't deny the financial reality. Her waitressing job barely covered rent, groceries, and Lily's school needs. The scholarships she'd secured for her online courses were helpful, but didn't address their day-to-day expenses. A position at Stone Enterprises would almost certainly pay better, offer benefits, maybe even tuition assistance. More importantly, it would give her access. Information. A chance to find out if Lawrence Prescott's recognition had been real, or just the paranoid reaction of a man caught attempting murder. The decision crystallized with surprising clarity. She would call Ethan Stone. She would take whatever position he offered, provided it kept her away from the facial recognition division. She would keep her head down, her past hidden, and use the opportunity to secure a better future for Lily. And if Stone proved to be a threat? Well, she'd escaped one powerful man before. She could do it again if necessary. With steady hands, she picked up her phone and dialed the number on the card. 2 hours later, Maya sat in the lobby of Stone Enterprises' gleaming downtown headquarters, trying not to appear as out of place as she felt. The glass and steel structure soared 60 stories above Chicago's financial district, its sleek modern design a physical manifestation of its founder's cutting-edge vision. She dressed carefully in her one-good suit, navy blue, purchased second-hand, but tailored to fit her petite frame perfectly. Her hair was pulled back in a professional chignon, her makeup minimal but polished. The overall effect was competent but forgettable, exactly as she intended. "Ms. Chen?" A young woman with a tablet approached. "Mr. Stone will see you now." Maya followed her through a maze of open-concept workspaces where intense-looking people stared at multiple monitors. The energy was palpable, a mix of stress, ambition, and caffeinated determination that reminded her of law school during finals week. The executive suite occupied the entire top floor, with Ethan Stone's office commanding the corner with the best views of both the Chicago River and Lake Michigan. The assistant led her through a set of glass doors that frosted to opacity with the touch of a button. Ethan stood at the window, his back to the door, silhouetted against the panoramic view. He turned as they entered, and Maya was struck again by how different he looked from the dismissive patron at the restaurant. Here, in his natural habitat, he exuded authority with an ease that came from absolute confidence in his position. "Ms. Chen," he acknowledged with a nod. "Thank you for coming. That will be all, Jessica." The assistant withdrew, closing the doors behind her. Ethan gestured to a chair across from his desk, but remained standing himself. "I'm glad you called," he said without preamble. "I wasn't entirely sure you would. Sure you—" Maya sat, keeping her back straight and her expression neutral. "Your offer was intriguing, though you weren't specific about what position you had in mind." A hint of amusement crossed his face as he moved to sit behind his imposing glass desk. "That's because I wanted to learn more about you before making that determination." "There isn't much to tell," Maya replied smoothly. "Single mother, waitress, taking online courses to become a paralegal." "Is that so?" Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Because I took the liberty of doing some research after our encounter last night. Maya Chen, age 31. No credit history before 7 years ago." No rental history, no employment records, nothing. It's as if you simply appeared in Chicago fully formed at age 24 with a newborn baby. Maya's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression impassive. I immigrated from Vancouver. Started fresh after a difficult divorce. It's not unusual for immigrants to have limited U.S. credit history. Vancouver. Ethan repeated thoughtfully. Interesting choice of origin story, considering you don't have even the slightest hint of a Canadian accent. And I checked immigration records as well. No Maya Chen matching your description entered the country 7 years ago. The calm she'd maintained began to fray at the edges. Mr. Stone, if you invited me here to interrogate me about my personal history, I invited you here, he cut her off, because you intrigue me. Your daughter saved my life last night, and when I looked into your eyes, I saw someone hiding in plain sight. Someone too intelligent, too composed, too something, to be serving filet mignon to entitled businessmen for the rest of her life. He stood again, moving around the desk to lean against its edge, closer to her now. I don't care who you were before. I care about who you are now and what you can do. And I believe you can do considerably more than you're currently being allowed to do. Maya's mind raced, calculating risks and possibilities. What exactly are you proposing? I need an executive assistant, he said simply. Someone intelligent, discreet, and observant. Someone who can manage my schedule, prioritize my communications, and occasionally accompany me to business functions to keep me from wasting time with people like Lawrence Prescott. A glorified secretary and social buffer, Maya translated, unable to keep a hint of disdain from her voice. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. An executive assistant at Stone Enterprises starts at $85,000 plus comprehensive benefits, including child care in our on-site facility. The position also includes potential for advancement for those who prove themselves capable. The figure made Maya's breath catch. It was more than triple what she made at the restaurant, even including tips. And what qualifies me for such a position, beyond my daughter's timely intervention last night? She asked, fighting to keep her tone even. Your eyes, he said simply. Excuse me? When the chaos was unfolding last night, police, accusations, a man being arrested for attempted murder, most people would have been flustered, overwhelmed. Your eyes were calculating, assessing. You were 3 steps ahead, watching exits, processing information. Those aren't the eyes of a waitress, Ms. Chen. Those are the eyes of someone who's been trained to think strategically. Maya felt exposed, as though he'd peeled back a layer of her carefully constructed persona. You're making assumptions based on a high-stress situation. Am I wrong? He challenged. She met his gaze directly. We all have pasts, Mr. Stone. Some are just more complicated than others. Indeed. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. So, are you interested in the position? Every instinct screamed that getting closer to Ethan Stone was dangerous. He was too perceptive, too relentless in his curiosity. And yet, the practical benefits were undeniable. I would need predictable hours, she said, making her decision. Lily is my priority. Of course. Standard hours are 8 to 5 with occasional evening events that would be scheduled well in advance. As I mentioned, we have an excellent childcare facility on the 3rd floor, and after-school programs as well. And what about the facial recognition project? Maya asked carefully. Would I be involved with that? Something flickered in Ethan's eyes, surprise perhaps that she knew about it. Tangentially, it's our flagship project at the moment. Why do you ask? Just curious about what I'd be getting into, she replied, forcing a casual shrug. When would you want me to start? Monday, he said decisively. You'll shadow Jessica for a week before she leaves for her new position in our legal department. The HR paperwork can be handled today, if you're amenable. It was happening so fast. Too fast for proper caution, but sometimes opportunity and risk were 2 sides of the same coin. I'll need to give notice at the restaurant. I'll have my PR department handle that with a generous donation to compensate for their loss. Consider it part of your signing bonus. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Ms. Chen? Maya stood and took his hand, noting the warm strength of his grip. We do, Mr. Stone. Ethan, he corrected. If you're going to be managing my life, I think first names are appropriate. Ethan, she repeated, withdrawing her hand. Then I suppose you should call me Maya. Maya, he said, as though testing how the name felt on his tongue. Welcome to Stone Enterprises. I think this is the beginning of a very interesting professional relationship. Something in his tone suggested he anticipated it becoming more than just professional, a possibility that both alarmed and, though she was loath to admit it, intrigued her. I should warn you, she said, keeping her voice light. I'm not easily impressed by power or wealth. A genuine laugh escaped him, the sound warming the sterile office. I gathered that from the way you put me in my place last night. It's refreshing. Most people either fear me or want something from me. And which category do you put me in? She challenged. Neither, he replied thoughtfully. That's what makes you interesting. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Maya wasn't ready to name. She broke eye contact first, glancing at her watch. I should pick up Lily from school soon. Of course. Jessica will help you with the HR paperwork on your way out. And Maya? His voice softened slightly. Thank you for trusting me enough to take this position. I promise you won't regret it. As she followed Jessica to the HR department, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just stepped onto a high wire without a safety net. Ethan Stone was dangerously perceptive, and she had just voluntarily placed herself directly in his line of sight. But for Lily, for the security, the health care, the child care, the chance at a better life, she would walk that wire. And if she fell, well, she'd survived worse. The first week at Stone Enterprises passed in a whirlwind of information, introductions, and adjustments. Jessica, Ethan's departing assistant, was efficient in her handover, if somewhat cold in her demeanor. Maya quickly realized why. The rumor mill had immediately suggested she'd earned her position through some sort of romantic connection to the CEO, given her sudden appearance and lack of verifiable corporate experience. You'll get used to it, Jessica had said with a shrug when Maya overheard two employees speculating in the break room. Ethan doesn't typically hire people without Ivy League degrees or at least 10 years of corporate experience. People talk, just outlast the rumors. Maya had nodded, swallowing the bitter taste of the assumptions. She'd faced worse prejudice before. Much worse. Lily, at least, was thriving. The company's child care facility was exceptional, with qualified teachers, a STEM-focused curriculum, and even Mandarin lessons that delighted Lily with the chance to practice the language Maya had been teaching her at home. Mama, I made a circuit that lights up an LED, Lily exclaimed on their third day, proudly displaying a simple breadboard creation. Ms. Patel says I have natural aptitude. Maya had hugged her daughter tightly, heart full. You're brilliant, my little star. I always knew it. The child care provision alone would have made the job change worthwhile, but Maya found herself unexpectedly enjoying other aspects as well. The work itself, managing Ethan's complex schedule, fielding communications from around the globe, preparing briefings on potential clients and partners, challenged her intellect in ways waitressing never had. It felt like stretching muscles long left dormant, painful at first but increasingly satisfying. As for Ethan himself, he remained an enigma. In the office, he was every bit the ruthless CEO his reputation suggested, demanding, exacting, and intolerant of incompetence. Yet she occasionally glimpsed another side of him, the way his expression softened when Lily came to the executive floor to show him her latest creation, the quiet generosity he displayed when an employee's family member fell ill, the flash of genuine enthusiasm when discussing technological innovations that could make the world better, not just make us richer, as he'd put it during one late-night strategy session. By Friday, Maya had settled into a cautious routine, still vigilant but less acutely anxious about her decision to accept the position. She was reviewing Ethan's schedule for the following week when he emerged from his office, suit jacket draped over one arm. Plans this weekend? He asked casually, pausing at her desk. Maya looked up, surprised by the personal question. Nothing special. Laundry, grocery shopping, helping Lily with her science project, the glamorous life of a single mother. A smile played at the corners of his mouth. I'm having a small dinner party at my place tomorrow night. Just a few people from the executive team and their spouses. You should come. Bring Lily. Her fingers stilled over her keyboard. I don't think that would be appropriate. I'm your assistant, not an executive. You're a valued member of my team whom I'd like my leadership to get to know better, he countered smoothly. Besides, Lily and my CTO's son hit it off in the childcare center this week. He'll be there. Maya hesitated. Social events meant more exposure, more questions about her background, more opportunities for inconsistencies to emerge. But refusing would only draw more attention, fuel more speculation about why the new assistant was keeping her distance. What's the dress code? She asked finally. Smart casual, he replied, looking pleased at her implicit acceptance. Nothing formal. I'll text you the address. 7 o'clock. As he walked away, Maya felt the familiar twist of anxiety in her stomach. Every step deeper into Ethan Stone's world was a step further from the careful anonymity she'd maintained for 7 years. And yet she couldn't deny a growing curiosity about the man himself. The contradiction between his ruthless business persona and the unexpected moments of kindness she'd witnessed. Ethan Stone's place turned out to be the entire top floor of one of Chicago's most exclusive residential towers, a glass and steel monument to architectural innovation, with panoramic views of the city and lake. Maya and Lily stepped out of the private elevator into a foyer larger than their entire apartment. Wow, Lily whispered, eyes wide as she took in the soaring ceilings and wall of windows showcasing the city lights below. Is this where princes live in America? Maya squeezed her daughter's hand. Remember what we talked about? Mr. Stone is just a regular person with a big job and a fancy home. We're going to be polite but not intimidated, right? Lily nodded solemnly. Because our worth isn't determined by material possessions, but by our character and actions. A warm chuckle interrupted them. A remarkably mature perspective for someone who still believes in the tooth fairy. Ethan stood in the archway leading to what appeared to be the main living area, dressed casually in dark jeans and a light blue button-down that matched his eyes. Without his usual power suit, he looked younger, more approachable. Sorry, he added, noting their surprise. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I heard the elevator and came to welcome you. Maya smoothed down her simple black dress, suddenly self-conscious of how inadequate her careful selection from her limited wardrobe must appear in these surroundings. Thank you for inviting us. Thanks for coming. His gaze lingered on her for a moment before he crouched down to Lily's level. And thank you for coming too, Lily. There's another young lady your age here tonight who's been asking when you'd arrive. Something about a robot you're building together? Lily's face lit up. That's Emma. We're making a robot that can sort blocks by color. Is she here now? Can I go see? In the playroom down the hall, Ethan replied, pointing the way. Emma's mom, Diane, is supervising. It's the third door on the right. You can't miss it. It's the room with all the Lego scattered everywhere. Mommy, can I? Lily asked, practically vibrating with excitement. Maya nodded. Go ahead. I'll come check on you in a little while. They watched as Lily darted off, her enthusiasm uncontainable. She's remarkable, Ethan observed quietly. Most children would be intimidated by this place, or at least distracted by the novelty. She went straight to what really interests her, the robotics project. Lily has always been focused, Maya replied, pride evident in her voice despite her attempt at nonchalance. Once something captures her interest, she's all in. Like mother, like daughter, Ethan said with a knowing look. I've seen how thoroughly you research potential clients before our meetings. It's impressive. He gestured toward the main room. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone. The gathering was smaller and less formal than Maya had feared. Just 8 adults, now 10 with their addition, seated around a large dining table that had been set up near the windows to maximize the view. Ethan made introductions smoothly, presenting Maya simply as Maya Chen, who's been revolutionizing my office operations, with no mention of her being his assistant. To her surprise, the executives and their spouses were welcoming, engaging her in conversation that seemed genuinely interested rather than perfunctory. David Nielsen, the chief technology officer, was particularly friendly, thanking her for Lily's influence on his daughter Emma. She's been talking about their robot non-stop, he said warmly. It's the first time she's shown interest in programming rather than just using technology. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself relaxing despite her initial reservations. The conversation was stimulating, the food excellent, and the atmosphere more casual than she'd expected. Ethan was a different person here, still commanding, but in a more relaxed, natural way that drew people to him rather than intimidating them. She was helping clear plates after dessert when Ethan appeared beside her in the kitchen. "You don't have to do that," he said, taking a stack of plates from her hands. "I have people who come in to handle cleanup tomorrow." "Force of habit from the restaurant," she replied with a small shrug. "Besides, I've never been good at sitting idle." He studied her for a moment. "You're surprising, you know that. Most people in your position would be trying to leverage this dinner to network, angle for promotions, curry favor. And what am I doing instead?" she asked, genuinely curious about his perception. "Building genuine connections," he replied simply. "You've spent the last 20 minutes discussing sustainable urban agriculture with my CFO's wife because you're actually interested, not because she can do anything for your career." Maya smiled slightly. "Maybe I'm playing a longer game." "Maybe," he acknowledged with a matching smile. "Or maybe you're just not like most people who enter my orbit." Before she could respond, they were interrupted by Lily and Emma rushing into the kitchen, both talking excitedly about their robot's successful color sorting test. "Mr. Stone, our robot works. It can tell blue from red with 92% accuracy." Lily exclaimed, her face flushed with triumph. "That's extremely impressive," Ethan replied, his tone serious rather than condescending. "What kind of sensor are you using?" As the girls launched into a detailed technical explanation that Maya only partially followed, she observed the way Ethan listened to them, with the same focused attention he gave to his executive team, asking thoughtful questions that prompted the girls to think deeper about their project. This was yet another side of him she hadn't anticipated, someone who treated children as worthy of intellectual respect rather than just humoring them. The evening wound down around 10, with parents collecting sleepy children and thanking Ethan for his hospitality. Maya found Lily curled up in a window seat in the playroom, fighting to keep her eyes open. "Time to go home, little star," she said softly, stroking her daughter's hair. "But we were having so much fun," Lily protested weakly, even as she leaned into her mother's touch. "I know, but it's past your bedtime." Maya helped her up, gathering their things. "We need to thank Mr. Stone for inviting us." They found him saying goodbye to the last of his other guests at the elevator. Once they'd departed, he turned to Maya and Lily with a warm smile. "Did you have a good time?" he asked, directing the question to Lily. She nodded emphatically. "The best. Your house is amazing. And the robot worked, and Emma says we can keep working on it at school on Monday." "I'm glad to hear it." He glanced at Maya. "And you? Was it as uncomfortable as you feared?" She felt a flush rise to her cheeks. "I didn't say I was uncomfortable." "You didn't have to," he replied with a knowing look. "It was written all over your face when I invited you. But you came anyway. Why?" The directness of his question caught her off guard. It seemed important to you." And Lily was excited about seeing Emma. Ethan's eyes softened. "Thank you for coming. I know it wasn't easy, stepping into what must have felt like a lion's den of executives after just a week on the job." "Your colleagues were very welcoming," Maya acknowledged. "It wasn't what I expected." "I don't surround myself with sharks, contrary to popular belief," he said with a wry smile. "I prefer people who are brilliant but still human." Lily, growing impatient with the adult conversation, tugged at Maya's hand. "Mommy, I'm sleepy." "I know, baby. We're leaving now." Maya turned back to Ethan. "Thank you for having us. It was enlightening." "I'll walk you down," he offered, pressing the elevator button. "My driver can take you home." "That's not necessary," Maya began, but he cut her off gently. "It's late, and cabs can be scarce in this neighborhood at this hour. Please allow me this small courtesy." Too tired to argue, especially with Lily practically falling asleep against her side, Maya nodded. The three of them rode down in comfortable silence, Lily's head resting against her mother's hip. At the building's entrance, a sleek black car waited, driver standing at attention. Ethan helped them inside, ensuring Lily was settled comfortably before closing the door. Through the window, he gave Maya a small nod of goodbye, something unreadable in his expression as the car pulled away. Back in their small apartment, as Maya tucked a now sleeping Lily into bed, she found herself replaying the evening. The conversations, the connections, the surprising glimpses of a different Ethan than the one who commanded the executive floor with such ruthless efficiency. And most unsettling of all, the way her carefully maintained walls had begun to crack, just slightly, in his presence. It was dangerous, this softening. She'd learned the hard way what happened when you allowed yourself to trust too easily, to care too deeply. And yet, as she prepared for bed herself, Maya couldn't entirely suppress a treacherous whisper of hope. That perhaps, just perhaps, Ethan Stone wasn't like the powerful men who had destroyed her former life. That perhaps in his orbit, she might find not just financial security for Lily, but a place where they both could stop running from the shadows of the past. It was a dangerous hope. But as sleep claimed her, Maya found herself unwilling to extinguish it completely. Monday morning brought a storm, both literally with rain lashing against the windows of Stone Enterprises, and figuratively, as Maya arrived to find the office in chaos. "He's been like this since 5 a.m., Jessica whispered, nodding toward Ethan's closed office door. The FBI showed up at his penthouse at dawn. Maya's blood ran cold. FBI? Why? Something about the security software. I don't know details, but there was a data breach overnight. Encrypted files stolen. Jessica handed Maya a stack of messages. Good luck. Today's my last day shadowing you, but honestly, I'm thinking of calling in sick. Before Maya could respond, Ethan's door flew open. His tie was askew, his usually impeccable hair disheveled. Maya, in here, now. She followed him into the office, where screens displayed news headlines about Stone Enterprises' security breach. Ethan paced like a caged animal. Someone accessed our server farm, stole developmental code for the facial recognition software. His voice was controlled fury. The same night Lawrence Prescott made bail. You think they're connected? Maya asked carefully. I know they are. He stopped pacing. The FBI agent mentioned something odd, said the hack had a signature they'd seen before, 7 years ago in a corporate espionage case that was never solved. 7 years. Maya's hands trembled slightly. What do you need from me? She asked, keeping her voice steady. Cancel everything today, then call my private investigator. He handed her a business card. Samuel Reeves, former FBI Cybercrime Division. I want him here this afternoon. As Maya turned to leave, Ethan added, And Maya? I want Lily picked up from school early, brought here. If this is connected to Prescott's poisoning attempt, I don't want to take chances with either of you. The protective gesture surprised her. I'll arrange it. By afternoon, Stone Enterprises had transformed into a fortress. Security personnel patrolled every entrance, and IT specialists combed through code-seeking vulnerabilities. Samuel Reeves arrived at 3, a compact man with shrewd eyes and the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen the darkest corners of human behavior. Stone, he greeted Ethan with a nod before turning curious eyes to Maya. And this is? Maya Chen, my executive assistant. She stays for this conversation. Reeves studied her with uncomfortable intensity before nodding. The breach was sophisticated but specific. They weren't after customer data or financials, just the facial recognition algorithm. Can it be traced? Ethan asked. Not directly, but I have a theory. Reeves opened his laptop. 7 years ago, a prosecutor was building a case against NextCorp for selling surveillance technology to sanctioned countries. The case fell apart when key evidence disappeared, and the prosecutor was framed for evidence tampering. Maya felt lightheaded but maintained her neutral expression. What's the connection? Ethan demanded. NextCorp was later acquired by Blackwater Tech, where Lawrence Prescott sits on the board. Reeves pulled up an old news article. The prosecutor disappeared after charges were dropped. Some suspected witness protection, others thought she fled the country. The article showed a courtroom sketch of a woman with her hair pulled back severely, glasses obscuring much of her face. Even with the artist's limited skill, Maya recognized herself. Her name was Mai Chung, Reeves continued. Brilliant legal mind, youngest federal prosecutor in her district. The rumor was she'd uncovered something bigger than sanctions violations, possibly corporate espionage or technology theft. Ethan frowned. And you think this Mai Chang is connected to our breach? I think someone wants people to believe she is, Reeves replied carefully. The hack used methods similar to evidence planted on her computer years ago. Maya's mind raced. Someone was deliberately invoking her past case, framing her again, or sending a message. Lily chose that moment to burst into the office, having escaped the childcare attendant who chased after her. "Mommy, look what I made." She thrust forward a paper covered in Chinese characters. "I wrote our family tree." Maya took the paper, heart stopping when she saw what Lily had innocently written. Their real family name, Chang, was prominently displayed. Reeves's eyes narrowed, darting between the paper and Maya. "Lily, sweetie," Maya said with forced calm, "why don't you go back downstairs while the adults finish talking?" Once Lily was safely out, Reeves turned to Maya. "Interesting coincidence. Your daughter seems to think your family name is Chang." "My ex-husband was Chang," Maya improvised. "I reverted to my maiden name after the divorce." Ethan was watching the exchange with growing suspicion. "Maya, what's going on?" Before she could answer, his phone rang. The blood drained from his face as he listened. "They've found Lawrence Prescott," he said after hanging up. "Dead in his apartment, apparent suicide. He left a note claiming responsibility for the breach, saying the ghost of Mai Chang drove him to it." Reeves and Ethan both stared at Maya, the silence heavy with unspoken questions. "I need to check on Lily," she said quietly, standing on unsteady legs. Ethan caught her arm. "Maya, or should I say Mai, we need to talk." "Not here," she whispered, fear and resignation battling in her eyes. "Not now. Please." Something in her expression must have reached him. He released her arm. "Tonight. My place. 8 o'clock. Maya nodded once before fleeing, her carefully constructed life crumbling with every step. Ethan's penthouse felt different in the harsh light of revelations, less a sanctuary of luxury, and more an interrogation room with a view. Maya sat perched on the edge of a leather sofa, Lily asleep in a guest room down the hall. "Start from the beginning," Ethan said, pouring himself a bourbon. "No more half-truths." Maya took a steadying breath. "My real name is Mai Chang. I was a federal prosecutor specializing in corporate crime. 7 years ago, I was building a case against NextCorp for selling facial recognition technology to sanctioned regimes. The same technology we're developing," Ethan noted, connecting dots. "Similar, yes. During my investigation, I discovered NextCorp wasn't just violating sanctions, they were stealing competitors' research, including early patents from your father's company." Ethan's head snapped up. "What? Stone Enterprises wasn't in facial recognition then?" "No, but your father's company had developed a unique algorithm for pattern recognition. NextCorp stole it, repurposed it." She paused. "My fiancé was NextCorp's lead counsel. I thought we were keeping our relationship separate from our careers, but he betrayed you," Ethan finished, his voice softening slightly. "Completely. When I got too close to the truth, evidence was planted on my computer suggesting I'd tampered with evidence, leaked confidential information. My fiancé provided reluctant testimony against me. The memory still burned. Overnight, I went from rising star to disgraced prosecutor. My case was dismissed, my career destroyed. Then I received a warning. If I didn't disappear, I wouldn't live to appeal. So Mai Chang died and Maya Chen was born," Ethan said. "I was pregnant with Lily. I couldn't risk fighting them. I changed my name, moved across the country, took whatever jobs wouldn't require extensive background checks. And now?" Ethan asked, studying her intently. "Who framed Prescott? Who's trying to resurrect Mai Chang?" "I don't know," she answered honestly. "But whoever killed Prescott is sending a message. They know who I am. They know I'm here." Ethan rubbed his temples. "This is about more than stolen code, isn't it?" I think it's about what I found 7 years ago. Evidence that NextCorp, now Blackwater, has a backdoor in their recognition software. They've been selling systems that can be remotely accessed, allowing them to spy on governments and corporations using their own security against them. And our software would compete with theirs, Ethan realized. We'd potentially expose their vulnerability. A notification chimed on Ethan's phone. His face darkened as he read it. "Reeves has been digging," he said. "The night Lily saved me from being poisoned. Facial recognition cameras at O'Hare caught your ex-fiancé arriving in Chicago. James Harrington." The name struck Maya like a physical blow. "James is here." "Was here. He left the morning after the poisoning attempt." Ethan hesitated. "There's more. Your old boss at the Justice Department was found dead 3 days ago." "Accident." Maya stood abruptly. "We have to go. Now. If they've killed Carlton, they're eliminating everyone connected to the original case." "Maya, wait." Ethan moved closer. "Running won't solve this. Not this time." "You don't understand." "I do," he cut her off. 7 years ago, you were alone. Now you have me." The fierce determination in his eyes stole her breath. "Why would you risk everything for someone who lied to you?" "Because Lily was telling the truth when she saved me." His hand found hers. "And because I see you, the real you, brilliant, principled, protective." Her fingers tightened around his. "They won't stop. NextCorp spent millions burying this. Then we'll spend more bringing it to light." He pulled her closer. "Tomorrow we take this to people I trust at the FBI. Tonight." His security system interrupted with an alarm. Ethan pulled up surveillance feeds showing armed men entering the building. "They're here," Maya whispered, "for me." Ethan was already moving, pulling her toward a concealed door. "Panic room, get Lily." The next moments blurred into frantic action. Ethan retrieving a gun from a hidden safe, Maya scooping up a confused Lily, both adults moving with single-minded purpose toward safety. They'd almost reached the panic room when glass shattered in the living room. Ethan pushed Maya and Lily ahead. "Get inside, lock it. The FBI contact is programmed into the console." "What about you?" Maya demanded. "I'll buy you time." Before she could protest, he was moving back toward the intruders, gun raised. Maya hesitated, torn between safety and leaving him behind. In that moment of indecision, she saw a dark figure appear behind Ethan. "Look out!" she screamed. Ethan spun, firing, as Maya pushed Lily into the panic room and lunged toward him. Their attacker fell, but another appeared, weapon aimed. Time slowed. Maya saw the gunman's finger tighten on the trigger. Without thinking, she threw herself forward, colliding with Ethan as a deafening crack split the air. Sharp pain exploded in her shoulder. Ethan caught her as she fell, returning fire with deadly precision. The second attacker dropped. "Maya!" Ethan's voice sounded distant as he pulled her toward the panic room. "Stay with me." Through waves of pain, she managed to focus on his face. "Lily?" "Safe," he assured her, sealing the panic room door behind them. As darkness encroached on her vision, Maya heard Lily crying, felt Ethan's hands applying pressure to her wound, his voice commanding her to stay conscious. Her last thought before passing out was that she'd finally found someone worth trusting again. Light filtered through hospital blinds, casting striped patterns across Maya's bed. 3 days had passed since the attack, 3 days of FBI interviews, security details, and pain medication that made time blur at the edges. "Mommy's awake." Lily's voice cut through the fog. She bounded from the chair where she'd been reading, careful to avoid the injured shoulder. "Mr. Ethan said you'd wake up today." Speaking of the devil, Ethan entered carrying coffee, stopping short when he saw Maya's open eyes. Relief washed over his features. "Welcome back," he said softly. A nurse bustled in, checking vitals and adjusting medication. "Your stats are looking good, Ms. Chang." Maya blinked in surprise at hearing her real name. "It's all out in the open now," Ethan explained once the nurse left. "The FBI has reopened your original case. Turns out Carlton kept evidence before his accident, backed up everything to a server only accessible after his death." Lily climbed carefully onto the bed. Mr. Ethan says we don't have to hide anymore, is that true? Maya stroked her daughter's hair. What happened after I was shot? The FBI team I called arrived 4 minutes after we sealed the panic room, Ethan said. The men who attacked us were mercenaries hired through a shell corporation linked to James Harrington. James, Maya whispered. Where is he? In custody since yesterday. They found him trying to flee to Venezuela. Ethan sat on the edge of her bed. The whole operation is unraveling. 4 board members at Blackwater have already resigned. Their stock is in free fall. Maya struggled to process everything. What about Lawrence Prescott? Murdered, not suicide. They've matched the handwriting on the suicide note to one of the mercenaries. Lily, growing bored with the adult conversation, returned to her book. Ethan moved closer. Your name will be cleared, he said quietly. The Justice Department is preparing a formal apology, discussing compensation. And Stone Enterprises? The breach? Contained. We've implemented new security protocols. A smile touched his lips. Actually, I'm hoping to hire a brilliant legal mind to oversee our compliance division, someone intimately familiar with corporate law and ethics. Maya's eyes widened. Are you offering me a job? Eventually. First, I'm offering you time to heal, to reclaim your identity, to decide what Mai Chang wants from her second chance. His hand found hers on the hospital blanket, warm and steady. Whatever you choose, I want to be part of it. These past weeks have shown me what's been missing in my life. Not just professional brilliance, but courage, integrity, real connection. I lied to you, she reminded him. You survived, he corrected. Now it's time to live. Lily looked up from her book. Are you going to kiss Mommy now? Emma says people who look at each other like that always kiss in movies. Ethan laughed, the sound lighter than Maya had ever heard from him. Your daughter is very perceptive. Runs in the family, Maya replied, a smile breaking through her reserve. I suppose I should ask permission first, Ethan said, his eyes never leaving hers. Maya felt the walls she'd built for 7 years finally crumble completely. Permission granted, counselor. His lips met hers gently, mindful of her injuries but with unmistakable promise. When they parted, Lily was watching with approval. Does this mean we can live in the Prince house with the big windows? She asked pragmatically. Let's start with dinner, Maya suggested, cheeks flushed. Once I'm out of here. Actually, Ethan said, looking slightly embarrassed, I took the liberty of having your things moved to my guest house for security, he added hastily. The FBI thought it best while the case is active. The guest house has its own pool, Lily informed her excitedly. And Mr. Ethan's chef makes pancakes shaped like animals. Maya raised an eyebrow. You've been busy. I protect what matters, he said simply. 1 month later, Maya stood before a federal judge, her shoulder still tender but healing. The courtroom was packed with press as 7 years of injustice were officially undone. The court extends its sincerest apologies to Ms. Chang, the judge announced. All charges are expunged, her license to practice law is reinstated, and the record will show she acted with the highest ethical standards. Beside her, Ethan squeezed her hand. Behind them, Lily sat with Emma and Diane, practically bouncing with excitement. Outside, reporters clamored for statements. Maya approached the microphones with the same dignity that had first caught Ethan's attention across a restaurant table. Justice delayed is still justice, she said clearly. I look forward to returning to legal work, this time as general counsel for Stone Enterprises' new Ethics and Compliance Division. Later, as they celebrated with champagne and sparkling apple juice for the children, in Ethan's, now their home, he pulled her onto the balcony overlooking the twinkling city. Happy? He asked, arms encircling her waist. More than I thought possible, she admitted, though being called Ms. Chang again will take some getting used to. How about Mrs. Stone? He asked casually. Maya turned in his arms, searching his face. Is that a proposal? Too soon? Worry creased his brow. When you know, she replied, echoing words he'd said about business decisions that first week in his office. His smile outshone the city lights. Is that a yes? It's a, we start with a proper date, then we tell Lily together, then we see. she countered with practical affection. Always the negotiator, he murmured against her hair. Inside, Lily's laughter mingled with the voices of friends who had stood by them through danger and revelation. Maya leaned into Ethan's embrace, finally allowing herself to believe in second chances. "Some things are worth the risk," she whispered, rising on tiptoes to seal the sentiment with a kiss. In the warm spring night, as the last echoes of danger faded and new beginnings took shape, Mai Chung, once hidden, now reclaimed, found herself exactly where she was meant to be, surrounded by truth, justice, and love that had been worth the wait.